Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, the road to Macstock continues. I am really enjoying talking to all the instructors. We've got a fair percentage of them so far, but we still have a lot more to go. I hope you're enjoying it as well. This time, we're going to talk about something that's really kind of interesting. I want to know how he's going to put this all into a session. Bill Geraci is going to tell us about Mac troubleshooting, how computers actually work. I'm not sure how we're going to get all that into one session, but it's going to be fun. So we'll hear from Bill in just a second, right after this. Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like MacVoices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. I want to welcome Bill Geraci for the first time to Mac Voices. Bill, welcome. It's great to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
And you're not only the first time on Mac Voices, but you're a first-time Macstock speaker as well.
Yes, it took me 3 years, although it is the third, so.
Well, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. You finally got there. I'm always curious because it seems like there's been more of a demand for, scratch that, more of a desire for people to speak at Macstock. What gave you the itch to get up on stage and explain things?
Well, I'm a compulsive teacher. All of my family says, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm explaining the history of the Middle East or something. So it's just how I am. But this is a group that's my people. This is the fun part.
It is. I keep trying to explain to folks, if you miss Macworld, if you didn't get to experience Macworld and want to get a taste of what it's like, this is the way to do it. And honestly, it's so much more, or so much less expensive, than Macworld ever was, because this is Woodstock, Illinois, July 15 and 16.
Right.
So it's not San Francisco. And the pricing is a little bit different on all counts.
Yeah, I never made it to Macworld. I've been messing with Mac since about 1988, and I never got out there. So this is as close as I can get.
Well, it's a pretty darn close approximation, especially from the people perspective, and from the education and topic perspective. Your topic really intrigues me because it sounds like you're taking a little bit different approach to troubleshooting by trying to explain to us how computers really work. What do you know that we don't?
Well, at best, I don't know anything you don't, but you don't have my way of looking at it.
Okay.
So the goal of the talk is for you to be able to crawl into the mind of a computer guy. So a computer guy comes in and you give him the problem, and they stare into space for a little while and say, how about this? And you say, how on earth would you guess that? Sometimes they're even right. And the answer is this talk. The answer is this talk will go over a framework that a computer guy holds in his head, as far as I'm concerned, when he walks in and figures out what the deal is. It's right about 80% of the time.
Okay, that's interesting. So are you talking about running through mental checklists, or are you just talking about trying to logically trace the problem from, where it seems to start to where it ends?
Yes, both of those things. I have discerned what I call the 7 levels of computing. And usually 80% of the problems with the computer is one of those 7 levels. So the first part is a diagnosis. You have to get through what the client says versus what's actually happening in terminology the computer guy understands. And then you have to place it in one or more of the 7 levels. Once you can discern what level the problem lives at, there are standard answers for those 7 levels. And that's 80% of the computer problems.
I love level 1, what the customer says versus what's really happening. What a great way to look at it.
Interpretation, yes. Some of it is because they don't know what they're saying. And I mean that both ways, as in they don't know what they're saying, as in they don't understand, but more importantly, they don't know the jargon. So I've had people call me up and say, my computer's broken, and after about 12 minutes, we figure out she can't get to a particular website she wants. For me, as a computer guy, if it's broken, it's stone cold dead black screen. So there's what people will say versus what do you actually find when you go out and play.
Yeah, that computer's broken thing. I run into that occasionally as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really interesting. It might be good at this point to get into your background a little. So, are you a professional consultant or a troubleshooter, or do you just like helping people?
I am happy to be the computer guy for the Divinity School at the University of Chicago. And they've tolerated me for like 14 years or so. So I'm not a sysadmin, I'm not a coder, I'm a user support guy. Systems administration and server administration just makes me hurt. And code is even worse. You have to type correctly for code. It's ridiculous. But I help people understand what's going on. That's my forte. In addition to that, I also work privately as a consultant. People pay me to come in and help them with their machines and that kind of thing. But training is the best part for me.
So that's really interesting. When you say you're a compulsive explainer or a compulsive educator, and you're the computer guy, and so do you find that you do a lot of education and explaining, or do people really approach you and just say, Bill, could you fix this? It's broken.
Well, I hope they want explanations. Most computer guys, when they approach a problem, it's, all right, so if we change this, it'll work, and oh yeah, I'll explain it to you. For me, it's the opposite. It's like, let me explain how this works, and oh yeah, I know this technical crap as well. I'm not really a computer guy. I'm a fraud. I'm a teacher who happens to teach computers and has spent the hours to get a technical understanding. That's why I enjoy training people. Most computer guys hate actually dealing with actual people. It's so annoying. But for me, that's the fun bit.
So Mike Potter has just found out that he's invited a fraud up on stage.
I hope so. But the role of this is teaching, right? I don't have a screwdriver and I'm not taking stuff apart. Okay. So this would actually be the best bit.
Okay, that's good. So this is going to focus a lot more on the methodology as opposed to this is how you fix a USB bus.
Oh yeah, we are. This is way above the level of screwdrivers and soldering irons and all that stuff. We do cover plugging and unplugging. I mean, that's part of the hardware level. But no, this is not, when you have this model of Apple case, you approach it from the side because if you go in the top, the screws aren't there. We're not doing that bit.
Okay. Now, and anybody that's done that much educating and teaching and troubleshooting and fixing for 14 years in one place, you got to have a couple stories. So let's not name any names, but you have to have something.
No. Well, the famous "My Computer's Broken" came from that group. And what else have people done? I didn't have this ready. I'll think of something, but off the top, it doesn't come.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of good. That means that there was never any perhaps fire or violence involved.
Oh, I did have a machine that smoked, which is sort of a bad thing. Some guy gave us a dual G5 tower, not the new NitoJet one, but the old one, the big tower. And I was using it for a while as a production machine. It was very nice. And I came in one morning and it was off, and I turned it on and it smoked. I turned it off right away. So there's some things like that happen. But
yeah, I'm sure
that's a hardware problem.
Yeah, that's pretty definite a hardware problem. That's good. That's good. Well, have you been to Macstock past years?
Both of them.
Okay, so give folks an idea of why you would suggest that they come to Macstock. What did you get out of it? And you obviously got the desire to teach and speak, but if you came back for the second one, now you're coming back for the third one, what is it that brings you back?
Well, it's really quite annoying because I like to think I actually know a whole bunch of stuff. But I go to these meetings and people are talking about stuff I don't know anything about. And often they can draw me in to care about it, which is also not all that common. So I learn about stuff that I don't already know about. And that's not true a lot. Most meetings I go to, it's like, okay, I see how he's approaching this. I know what this is. I know what this is about. That's good. These guys, in part because the people Mr. Potter picks, and in part because of the compression of time, they really have to scan some interesting stuff. So that's great for me. It'd be even more for people who aren't as into it as I am, because they can get coverage of a whole bunch of different kind of topics.
I've said a lot of times on the show about how it's great to come and meet new friends and all, and that's absolutely true. But I think I want to shift the focus a little and try to make sure people understand that this is not just people coming and socializing. I mean, there's a lot of that goes on, yes. And I'm so glad to hear you say that people are talking about things that you don't know. And after 14 years, you should know a lot. I'm even more complimented, and Mike should be too, about the fact that they're talking about things you don't know anything about, but they pull you in and get you interested. And that's exciting, I think.
That guy with those little robots last year, that was so cool.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything with them, but I mean, just seeing that stuff is available is fascinating.
Yeah, this is not a static world and a static industry. I mean, it's constantly moving forward. It just may not be moving forward in your particular area. But I know I just saw an article today on chatbots and selling things online. And, it's like, okay, here comes another big change.
Right. Yeah, automation and artificial intelligence is getting, depending on your perspective, more and more interesting or worse and worse.
Scarier and scarier?
Yeah.
At the risk of, I don't want to sound biased or anything like that. So what does a Divinity school primarily use computers for?
I am very, very happy to say that none of my people have gone any further than Word and Excel. Other parts of the university, they have these really cool statistics programs and these data things. And see, I don't know anything about that crap. So it's good that they work in what I can help them with. That always is actually very helpful. But it's people writing papers mostly.
Okay.
And, of course, the computers have to work it all. Then they get new ones, and they want to know about this technology and that kind of stuff. But it's not hardcore database churning sort of server login profiles things, which a lot of the rest of the university does. And I smile and walk by when they do that.
So a lot of what you just described sounds like most business people. That, Word, Excel, maybe PowerPoint.
For what they do day to day, underlying it, they may have all sorts of interesting technologies going on if their computer guys do it. But most small business people and most real people do just that.
So let's see if we can recap this. So you're a fraud that's going to get up there and talk about just the basic stuff and about how to think about computer troubleshooting.
Well, I'd like to help people have in mind the way computers work. I mean, any speciality, any complex system, you have to actually learn. If you want to get a handle on it, you have to actually learn how it actually works, which is usually quite painful. I mean, if I were going to become an auto mechanic, God forbid, it would be hours and weeks and months and years trying to figure out what's going on with all those things. And so what I hope to do is give people the perspective a computer guy already has, so they've at least understood how the problem can be taken apart. It's gone well before. We'll see how it goes here. I really hope for a deep dive, because that's where I would have the time to be able to do the other half, which is the usual answers.
I think that, and I think we need to be clear about it, that when you talk about how a computer works, you're not exactly talking about you push this button and the electrical impulse goes to here and all that. You're talking just about how to think about conceptually how it works, and therefore how you can fix it.
How it works conceptually in the service of when things don't work right. It's aimed at troubleshooting. How do you diagnose a problem, and what do you do once you've diagnosed it? Which is a little more practical than conceptually, and a little less annoying than, all right, these lines of codes and this log means that.
Right. Do you think troubleshooting has gotten more or less complex as we've gone along? I think I'm going to ask you to focus on hardware, because software obviously has gotten more complex. So that just...
It's absolutely gotten more complex. When I first gave this talk, 2002, I had 4 levels. Now I have 7. In the 4, 1 is implied, but the biggest change is adding the network level. There was a time when stuff across a network was really not that big of a deal in computer support. It happened and you had it, but now pretty much everything anybody does is based on network stuff. So I have a whole section now on networking that wasn't there years ago.
Has security also impacted this?
It's impacted how we use computers. It hasn't impacted my talk. I don't think I could stand 8 levels. Important though it is. Well, I do have a talk on security, but it isn't this one.
Well, next year's Macstock, you may have to go to 8.
There you go. Yeah. That would be horrifying.
No, I'm anxious to hear this talk. I'm anxious to see, because you've kind of teased us a little bit with the first level or two. So I want to see what 7 are. I really can't think of 7. So I want to get inside your head and see what's in there.
At the end, I hope you agree. I have to say that at the end of one of these talks, a colleague came up and said, "Where did you get this from?" And I laughed out loud. It says, "I don't know. This has been so internalized to me. I can't say on this date I figured that out. It's the only way I know to regularly tangle with these problems. So it's a way in, a way to understand."
Okay, folks. So if you're a user and want to learn this stuff, great. If you're someone that is, what was your phrase, Bill, the computer guy for your office or your friends or your neighborhood or whatever, then it sounds like this is one that you really need to come and hear.
Should be fun.
I'm looking forward to it. Do you have social media presences or websites or anything that you'd like to tell people to follow or where they can find you, or are you just going to appear as a mystery man?
Absolutely not. I am happy to say I've avoided the whole social media thing. But you could reach me at an email address, bgcomphelp@mac.com. That would be swell.
Great. Well, then, folks, if you have questions maybe you'd like for Bill to consider, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
Bill, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Macstock again and to hearing the 7 levels.
Very good. It'll be fun.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. We keep saying it over and over. You're tired of hearing it, so just sign up, will you? And we'll come to Woodstock, Illinois. Again, July 15 and 16, Macstock2017.com. That'll get you there and register. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to learn a lot too.
Come on down.
Come on down. Come on down. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Mac Voices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the Mac Voices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest Mac Voices news from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free Mac Voices Magazine on Flipboard by visiting macvoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.